Hi, welcome back to the craft room. And if you're new here, thank you so much for joining us. Today I'm going to be using my Lavinia stamps in a different way, just to show that it's not always a card that you have to make with not only Lavinia stamps, whatever stamps that you have in your stash. You can do something really pretty and really creative. So hope you enjoy watching. If you do, please hit that like button and subscribe. Today's project, I'm going to be working on a candle, and these are ones that I hadn't made previously. Now I'll do a simpler one than this, but they're wonderful things to give as presents, or if you were doing a market stall or something. They look really beautiful on a market stall and they sell very well. So this is a personalised wedding one. I've done some of these as well in the past, and some christening ones, and you can wrap them up nicely with a nice bow just to finish them off. But you can purchase these candles. Now the wedding one is a more expensive candle, but these ones you can buy them for about €5. I mean, they're not expensive. And when you take the plastic off, if you're careful, you can reuse it. So I'll just go ahead and I'll take this out of its wrapper. So I'm going to need my Lavinia stamps, the inks of my choice. Going to need some acrylic blocks and the tissue paper. I'm also going to need some wax paper. The type of tissue paper I like to use is this very light tissue paper that I always tend to keep in my stash. And also I'm going to need my heat tool. So as I've said, if you're careful removing the plastic, you can pop it back in afterwards and reuse it. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to measure my tissue, and the tissue that I like to use is it has a kind of a flat finish to it. It's not shiny. It's just what I prefer. Now I tend to collect tissue paper if I buy glasses or mugs or plates or anything like that and to wrap them up. I keep it and to use for this purpose, or I have been cheeky on occasion also that I'll say to the girl, whoever is in the shop, could I have a couple of extra sheets of that? And more often than not, they'll throw a few in for you. But I'm going to cut this down. Just want to make it a bit shorter than the candle. Now you don't have to be, it doesn't matter whether it's a straight line or not, because it will disappear into the candle, and I'm going to make this a bit shorter also. Now there is another technique that I have used on occasion where I just wet the edge and kind of pull it apart so that you don't get a straight line. Actually, the straight line isn't a good idea, so I'm going to just trim a bit off of that one as well. If you have a straight line, it kind of makes it more obvious where it's sitting. We'll just take the corners off as well. So there we go. And as I said, I'm going to do a simpler one just to give you an idea of how it's done, really. So I'm going to pop that down, and I'm going to pop my little moon. It's just a piece of plastic that I cut out. Pop that down there, and I'm going to come in with my Distress ink in broken china. I'm just going to ink up my brush and just lightly go around the edge of that. I'm going to pop that on my mat. Oh, there we go. And with what's left on the brush, I'm just going to lightly go across it. Maybe put a little bit of ink on. It's hard to see it, but when you have something white behind, which I might actually put some white paper behind it. As you can see, there's little bits of blue, just to give the impression of a bit of cloud. So next I'm coming in with this piece of paper just to create a foreground. And I'm going to use my Wild Honey distressing for that one. Just finding an appropriate brush. Yeah. So I'm just lightly going over that there. And just move it to get a different image. So you can reuse the same piece in different ways. It gives you a different finish to it. Yep, and I'm quite happy there. So next I'm coming in with my stamps, and I'm using, this is Eden by Lavinia. So I'm just going to pop her on some, just see actually first of all where she's going to go, and I think just pop her down there, and I think probably around here. Yeah, maybe up there, because I'd like the moonlight to be behind her, but I think I'm going to come in with a bit more of that broken china and just lightly hit the back of it there first before I do the stamping. Yep, that's fine. So I've just popped Eden onto my acrylic block there, and I'm coming in with my Versafine Clair in Nocturne. So it's all very similar to just doing normal stamping. I just want to get my placement right there now and pop her down. So I'm going to give her a minute. And hopefully she'll have stamped well for me. And yeah, I'm pleased with that. So next I'm coming in with mini Pipin. And I'll pop him onto the acrylic block. Just want to see where I want him. And I'm also inking him up in the Nocturne. It's just that lovely black. Oh, it's just behind. The tissue is so light, you can see that the image came through behind, but that's fine. It hasn't damaged my print at all. So I'm going to pop Pipin down there. He's so cute. And then just to add another little bit of interest, will I or won't I? I think I'll come in with these little mini meadow mushrooms. Just pop them onto the little acrylic block, and I think I'll come in with the bundled sage for them. They're nice and faint, which is how I want them. That image behind is throwing me off a bit, I have to admit. But I guess it acts also as a bit of blotting paper, which is probably a good thing. So there we go. And I was considering using these little leaves, they're the berry leaves. But will I? Maybe I will. I'll use the smaller of the two, I think. Just pop that down there, and I'm going to come in with the Rainforest, the Versafine Clair. Just get it up well. It's a beautiful stamp, this one. Yeah. So the next thing I'm doing is I'm coming in with my candle, and I'm just going to place that down. It looks a bit odd at the moment, but it won't when it's finished. And I'm actually going to come back in with this and just put a bit more of that colour down. I won't ink it again. There's enough ink on the brush, I think. Yeah, it was just those two looked like they were kind of floating nowhere. So I think that's better. Now the next thing we're going to need for this is, I'm popping, sorry, going back and forth, I'm just popping another one of these over here. And I need some wax paper. Now, if you live in the States, I'm sure you can get this quite easily. In Ireland, it's not that easy to get the wax paper. You can buy little square sheets in the craft store, which cost a fortune. But I'm lucky I have a sister that lives in Florida, and between the family going over and back, I'll always get somebody to pick me up some of the rolls of wax paper. It works out much more cost efficient for me. So I need to pull out enough of this to not only go around the candle, but also to have some extra. So I'll show you why now. So I'm just putting that where I want it on the candle, and then I'm going to wrap the wax paper around it, making sure that I have no lines or bubbles. So it's important to smooth it out, and the reason you need the extra paper is you need some at the back to hold on to so that you can get a grip. Make sure you even out any lines that are in the wax paper, because otherwise the impression will come out on your candle when you heat it. And that looks fairly good. So I'm just coming in now with my heat tool, and I'm going to leave it get good and hot for a minute. And this is where the magic happens. Next thing I want to do, kind of leave it cool for a few seconds and come along. Takes a few moments to do it, but as you'll see, it'll be well worth it. I'm just peeling that wax paper away. And if you see there's a few little cracks here, what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to come back in and just go over that little bit again. Just takes a second, and I'm going to do the same here to the fairy. Because I feel out of all of it, they're the most important, and that's better. But you can see it's perfect this time. As you can see, that tissue has just faded completely into the candle. And I'm very pleased with that. I can just rub my hand over it and remove those little bits. So I think you'll agree that's turned out very pretty. And I'm very pleased with it. It would make a lovely gift, as I said earlier. Nice birthday present, or you could stamp a sentiment on it also, anything you want, and just do exactly the same technique. Well, I'm going to pop that back into the little plastic, into the little bag that it came in now. So I'm just carefully slipping that back in and turning it so that the line isn't blocking the main part where the fairy and little Pipin are. So I'm pushing it down really well now and just, you know, I'm going to find a nice ribbon to put on the top just to make it look nice. I think this nice blue one will look good on it. And this is another thing that I recycle, the ribbons. Sometimes if you get new pyjamas and things at Christmas, over here anyway, they kind of come and they're usually wrapped up in a ribbon. Well, I generally keep the ribbons. And there you go. How pretty is that? I'm very happy with the way that turned out, and I hope you've enjoyed watching. If you have, please like, and if you haven't already, subscribe. And don't forget to hit the bell so that you're reminded each time I upload a video. Thank you so much for watching.